And it's like if you've got an athlete who's benched predominantly most of the game, like he needs to do something at the end because then he's not going to be able to deal with the load in upcoming games or upcoming training sessions. Like an accumulative load throughout week, month, year is just as important as scaling and progressing things.
Yeah, and I that email that I have typed up to send to the coach, like I have on Thursdays at the end of that session, because it's not a practice day, this is what you need to do with your bench players, because in the event that their number gets called, exactly what you just said, we need them to be conditioned so that they're not injured, so that they contribute, whatever it is. So yeah, and I think I saw Andrew Altoff speak this summer, and he talked about how we have gotten afraid to go hard on our hard days, right? Because
Mhm.
said, like Stephanie said, the load management term is flown around so much, but it's like, you've got to go hard, and then you've got to back off when it's time to back off. Otherwise, everything just becomes this like chronic, medium, gross, grindy day. Then conditioning does get a nasty rap because it is ineffective. And that's where, like I mentioned, telling my kids, like, your lab rats today. Like I communicate that stuff with my athletes. I'm like, here's what our week looks like. Today we're going hard. Understand that tomorrow, because we went hard today, I'm going to back off. And you can trust me that I'm going to do what we need to do for your body to get you ready to go hard again, because that's how sports works and that's how games work. Right. So I think, again, what she was saying, what Coach Altoff, I heard him speak about this summer, like go hard on your hard days, go easy on your easy days.
100%. Like I love active recovery days because you can get just as much out of them as you can like the hardest training session in that block. Like you like just by keeping moving and keeping the body like active, it just doesn't have that ability to just sit and just like waste. And like that's how I think like active recovery is better than just sitting on the couch and just watching TV. Like you can still do that like afterwards. That's still fine. But like I like exactly what you said, like hard days are hard, easy days are easy. I kind of want to touch back on a point that you mentioned earlier based on this. How do you deal with the practice loads that you said that you don't always get to know from your athletes?
I just talk to kids and I have to trust them. I think that comes into, when you've been training an athlete for a while, you know what they look like walking in the door, right? And whether it's, people will be like, oh, well, they just had a bad day or they had a math test or whatever it is. Stress is stress, right? It doesn't matter if it was physical, it doesn't matter if it was cognitive, it doesn't matter if it's emotional. They're walking in the door, they're stressed out. You know what that looks like. You talk to them, you have that conversation. Is that precise? No. I work with middle school and high school age athletes right now. I'm working through a collegiate coach who has a background in working with players to assess their load. And I'm advising on this should be a hard day of practice or whatever. So my process is far from precise, but I've also been doing this for 20 years. So it's like, I was explaining to someone where it's like I'm writing a program kind of blind, but because I've been around the sport so much, I kind of just know what to do. And a lot of
Mhm.
people won't like that. They'll say, well, you don't have tech on them or you don't have this or blah, blah, blah. But you can just kind of like operate by feel at some point.
I
And
do.
again, I would love to have technology to like verify my hypothesis on all of that, but I don't. So I've got to do what's optimal in my setting.
We were talking off air about the science and coaching ability from Europe side and the US side, and it's exactly that. It's people get so infatuated with, yeah, but what's your results? Like, where are you getting this number from? How is that working? Like, I need to know everything. But like, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's just feel. Like, I've got a decade in strength and conditioning. Like, I started strength and conditioning when I was 13, and then I started like doing work placement with my coach at 14. I'm now 28, so like I've been in this industry long enough to know like sometimes you just need to push. Like I did a conference in Italy a couple months back, and I was doing something that Coach Mac showed me, and it was like it's this core sort of drill that takes a couple minutes, but it's just hard, and they just teaches you to push through it. But the guys afterwards like, yeah, but what's the science behind like what's like why did we do it? I was like, because it's hard. And it's like, yeah, but like what's it doing? Nothing. It's just hard, and you'd work on your core. That's it.
Yeah, and I think, like, and I talk about in my book, I'm like, hard for the sake of hard workouts or da 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 da. And I do agree with that, but I also agree with what you're saying. Like, sometimes you just need to push people, and sometimes you just need to get, like, let training get a little nasty, right? Not to the point that it's unsafe, but again, that
Yeah.
just goes back to
Yeah.
knowing your athletes, right? Knowing the training. I think the difference is, if I'm going to put somebody through, like, we would do all these, dumb, like, off season challenges or whatever, but the kids liked it. They bought into it. There was some team building going on with it. But I also knew exactly where the line was, right?
Mhm.
Like, I'm planning it where it's not interrupting our other training. I'm planning it where I know they're going to get something emotional, mental, whatever out of it. Um, and again, I just know physically where they're at. I'm not walking in on day one, like hitting them with a 1 RM test and being like, oh, you're not
Mhm.
mentally tough because you didn't hit whatever. You know what I mean? So